Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted Sports Takes podcast. Got a good one today. Got our first mock draft of the year. Obviously for the NFL. That's coming up for the draft coming up in April. Okay, so big news in the NFL right now. Obviously we got to talk about the Stephon Diggs to the Texans. Go ahead, Brett, and give me your idea of how this affects them and how it affects the NFL and how it affects the Texans.
So I think the Bills are kind of cooked now.
Yeah.
Unless they find a great receiver in the draft. But for the Texans, they gave up a second, which, I don't know how they can get away with. I don't know how they can get away with getting Stephon Diggs for a second.
Yeah.
But the Bears got
Right.
Keenan Allen for a fourth.
Right.
And Keenan Allen has been outproducing Stephon Diggs the last few years.
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, he might have been a little overvalued. But I think he's going to be a great dynamic playmaker with that young Houston offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he can really bring them to that next level since they didn't really have a true wide receiver one.
Yeah, like the
this
guy.
past year.
Right. Obviously you talked about the Bills. All they have is Curtis Samuel that Josh Allen gets to throw to. And Dalton Kincaid. Kincaid's going to be one of the top tight ends this year, I think, in fantasy. Yeah. One of the best. He's going to have a lot of targets. So is Curtis Samuel. Obviously, if they don't get a wide receiver in the draft, they might trade up. But it's not looking like it. They don't have a lot of, opportunity to do that right now. And they did get a second round pick. And Stephon Diggs is kind of a, I don't know him personally, but obviously with the social media stuff, he's a little bit of an, he kind of goes out of the way to make drama.
He's viewed as a cancer.
Right. So that might be the reason too. They just needed a better teammate on their team. But obviously the Texans, in my eyes, it's a new team for Stephon Diggs. He's not going to be a complete a-hole at the beginning. And they're going to have to share the ball a lot. All those players. I think that team is a contender right now. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl right this year. And we talked about this when we were talking about, the winners of the divisions. Obviously, they're going to win their division. But now, and we're kind of talking about they could be a Super Bowl contender. Now that puts them, over the edge to a real solid contender if they can put it all together. And C.J. Stroud obviously doesn't get a sophomore slump. I don't think he will because he has all of those weapons if he stays healthy and everything, and all those guys stay healthy. So I didn't know that Keenan Allen has been outproducing. You can when you think about it, obviously he's going to outproduce, but I didn't know that. So we know it's a steal. The Keenan Allen trade was a steal, but that just shows that even if because you have a big name, they're going to last a lot of it. Keenan Allen kind of, he's been hurt recently. That's kind of probably went into that decision, but do you think that they're Super Bowl contenders, they have a chance to win the Super Bowl this year? What do you think?
I do actually. If you look at their team, they didn't really lose any key pieces.
Right.
They lost a couple guys to injuries in the playoffs or late in the season, like Tank Dell. They'll have him back. So I think paired with the veteran experience of Stephon Diggs, the offense will be really solid. Their defense held up in the playoffs for the most part. And I think that was like what surprised people, how legit their defense was.
Yep. They signed more defensive players too.
Yeah.
They got
so I think
back, everything.
Yeah, I do think they have a legitimate chance to make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have a chance to win.
Right.
Just because they are so young, but they do have a chance to make it.
Yep. And I forgot that, yeah, they signed Dalton Schultz, re-signed Dalton Schultz. I mean, they'll be good. They have a
Yep.
Laramie Tunson. They have a great O line. And their defense, they signed Daniel Hunter. They'll be good.
Mm.
But going now, still talking about the NFL the NFL draft is in a couple weeks. I think it's the 25th of April. And we got a little UST first mock draft. We were only going to do the first 15 picks. And we're gonna give our picks and give us why. Obviously, those teams are gonna pick, and maybe even some trades are gonna trade ups that might happen. And I'll go first on this. Obviously, the Bears.
Well, do you want to talk about the Rashee Rice situation real
Oh
quick?
yeah, we can. Yeah, go ahead.
And there was an update on that today.
Yeah, go ahead.
They they found 10.8 grams of marijuana
Holy crap!
in his car, which is a felony.
Right.
And
It was in Texas, right? That was where the
yeah, so
yeah.
it's most likely that he'll face jail time.
Yeah.
Which
that
you
sucks
can't
for the
be
that
an
sucks for the
NFL
Chiefs.
player
Right.
and be carrying around that much weed on you, man.
And
I
obviously
don't know.
he was, but just by the way he ran away from the scene, he was obviously
Yeah,
probably under the influence of something. Um,
yeah,
with that much weed in the car, you'd think he's probably high. Um, and that sucks for the Chiefs, man. I know that
yeah.
they'll figure it out. They're gonna be fucking good anyways. But that sucks because he was their number one right now, and he's probably gonna
Hmm.
get even more targets this year. Um,
Yeah,
so I mean, he's definitely gonna go to jail, um, at least for a little bit, and he's gonna get released. It's gonna be like a Kareem Hunt kind of thing, and
yeah. I
he's
think
gonna
so.
he's either gonna get jail time for a little bit, like a month or 2 weeks or something, but he's gonna get suspended for sure probably the first half of the
Oh yeah,
season. And
yeah.
I haven't read too much into it. I didn't know if the other people that he crashed into got seriously hurt or were in the hospital. Um,
I don't think anybody was injured,
okay.
like
Still,
seriously injured.
still gonna get jail time and
Yeah,
gonna get suspended for the first half of the season, probably. Depending, I mean, a lot of people get off on that kind of thing, but I think that is gonna be at least like 6 games or something. Um,
yeah. I think the amount of weed he had is going to
right.
come into play there.
Yeah. Um, all right. So going straight back into the mock draft, I'll start. Obviously, Cale Williams going number one with the Bears. That's an obvious pick. I don't really have to explain myself. He's probably the best player in the draft. He is the best player in the draft right now. Um,
Hmm.
for me, number two, I'm actually going to go with Jaden Daniels. I think the Redskins are not going to pick Drake May. I do think Jaden Daniels goes as a second quarterback off the board. That might be kind of crazy. I look at all these mock drafts, making my own, and they had Drake May 100%. He was going to go number two. Um, you know, you watch Jaden Daniels' highlight tapes. Drake May has a lot of upside, but there's a lot of unknown. And you watch Jaden Daniels;
Hmm.
he's for sure, quarterback that can play. He is who he is. He can run, and I think the Redskins pick him up at number two. And then obviously number three, I was kind of going back and forth on this if the Patriots are going to maybe get a late second round, like Penix in the second round, but and get a maybe a lineman like Joe Alt at number three. But I decided to go with Drake May. Patriots are going to pick Drake May, and wait with the O lineman because this is obviously a very quarterback heavy draft and a tackle heavy draft. A lot of good,
Hmm.
so like cornerstone pieces in the top 15. But I'm going to go with Drake May at number three. And then the Cardinals are going to pick, obviously, the best wide receiver in the draft, best skill position, Marvin Harrison, to help with Kyler Murray. Maybe they can figure it out down there in Arizona. And then at five, I got the Chargers with the new coach trading back with the Vikings. I think the Vikings go up, give them give the Chargers 2 first-round picks, the 27th and I think the 11th, where the Vikings are at right now. I think they go up and they actually pick J.J. McCarthy. I know that's insane, but they are so high
Yeah.
on that kid. Even if he's not maybe the best quarterback on film, they need one. They trade up, and he is probably, after those three go off the top three, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. I mean, the best one is probably J.J. McCarthy or Bo Nix, or Penix. But I don't think they take them in the top 4 and the top 5. And then obviously my number 6 is Malik Neighbors goes to the Giants. I don't think they pick a quarterback. I think they keep with Daniel Jones because of the money situation. I mean, he's $40 million a year. I think they stick with him. Go with Malik Neighbors. Maybe if Marvin Harrison was not in the draft, he would be top 5. Now I have 7. It's the Titans. I have Joe Alt. They're not going to get a quarterback right now unless they trade up, which is not the Titan way. They're going to get a Chronostone. Their O-line sucks, so they're going to get Joe Alt, beef up their offensive tackle spot. And then at number 8, sadly, I have Dallas Turner going to Atlanta. The Bears have the 9th pick. If the Atlanta does not pick Dallas Turner, which they will, if he's available, I want the Bears to take him, just to give the defense more space, more pass rush. But if I have Atlanta picking Dallas Turner here. They don't need anyone on offense. I think their O-line is really good, and they have a great running back. They don't have and they have good wide receivers. I think they pick Dallas Turner here on the defensive side. And then obviously now the Bears have a choice. I put in Roma Dunze. Keenan Allen's getting old, so they need a trio. I mean, you have Roma Dunze and Caleb Williams, Keenan Allen, and that's a great offense to come into. Could also see an offensive tackle here at 9 spot. And I heard the Bears are. It's kind of like a Boy Scout over there. They're splitting into teams, and they're going to give presentations on what to do with the 9th pick. I'm not even kidding. That was reported. Eberflus even said that at a press conference. They're literally splitting off into 2 groups. Obviously which group they think is more what they believe in. So we'll see what they go with that. They could pick Fuanga, probably the best O-lineman, the second best O-lineman in the draft, from Oregon. And then at 10, I have if the Bears pick a Fuanga or an O-lineman, the Jets are going to get Odunze, or Roma Odunze. But if the Bears pick Roma Odunze, they'll get the best O-lineman in the draft because their O-line is not the best, even if they got that guy from the Cowboys, Torrey Smith. Now 11, the Chargers are going to get an O-lineman. They need O-line. Their O-line is terrible. They're going to get whoever the top O-lineman is at 11. So they're going to get Fuanga, Latham, someone like that, or Fashunu, an O-lineman that's going to play. It's probably going to be Fashunu because of his pass blocking ability. He's not great run blocking, and they're going to go into even with Harbaugh, they're not going to run the ball as much as Michigan because they have Justin Herbert behind them. Now for the Broncos, they're going to pick an O-lineman. One of those 3, Latham, Fuanga, Fashunu, they're going to pick someone. I put for the Chargers, I put Fuanga. For the Broncos, I put Fashunu. And then 13, this is kind of a surprise. I know it's the Raiders' pick at 13. I know that they need defense, but it's the Raiders, so they're not going to pick defense. They're going to go with Michael Penix Jr. That's who I'm picking. Kind of crazy. They're going to go with Penix Jr. Even if they got what's his name, the Colts.
O'Connell.
No, the quarterback.
Oh.
Gardner Minshew. Even if they got Gardner Minshew.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They're gonna pick Michael Penix Jr. That might be insane, and it's definitely some people think that's kind of weird, but it's the Raiders. I mean, they need a corner, and some of these mock drafts have, Quinyon Mitchell, and they even have him going back and trading back. But I think they're gonna pick a quarterback in top 15. For number 14, the Saints. Whoever the lineman is left, the Saints are going to get. And I didn't put an actual name here because there's so many linemen that are great. It could be Fashunu this late because of his run blocking problems. But they're going to pick O-lineman because they need O-lineman. The O-line is terrible. And they picked an alignment first in the first round a couple years ago and it hasn't really worked out. So they need someone to fill that spot. Now, my last pick, the Colts, they have a long, their defense isn't the best, but I think they give, I think they give Anthony Richardson another weapon, and they get Brock Bowers in the top 15.
No.
I think Brock Bowers is the guy. If I was a 15th pick, I'd be okay with picking Brock Bowers. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
They need an edge rusher. Liatu Latu. I could see that going too. But I can see him going there as well. But I do think Brock Bowers goes to the Colts. With their new offense and how Anthony Richards runs, I think they give him another weapon with that wide receiver core. I think that would be great. I think he'd be a great fit. That the last 5 might be kind of insane, but I like when you watch the NFL draft, it's all these mock drafts are not going to be the exact same. They're kind of like in a box.
Yeah.
But I think it does get kind of crazy at the top 15. So that's my 15. Go ahead with yours.
Okay, so number 1 I think is set in stone. Is going to be Caleb Williams to Chicago. 2, I also have Jaden Daniels going to the Commanders.
Yep.
And then I have, I think the Patriots will go with Drake May. Hopefully, I mean, you got to be sketched out about a white quarterback from North Carolina.
I am.
Yeah. Then 4, I think that the Cardinals will take Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think they'll trade away this pick.
Yeah.
5, I think the Chargers will take Joe Alt.
Okay.
6, I think the Raiders trade up for pick number 6 and they take Jane Daniels here. No, he's a solid prospect. He can.
You mean JJ, or
no, Jaden Daniels?
Okay.
He's a dual threat. Had a great season at LSU. I have. Then at 7, I think the Titans will take Fuaga from Oregon State. Especially now that they don't have somebody who's built like a middle linebacker at running back.
Right.
They're going to need the blocking. Then at 8, I have Dallas Turner will probably go to the Falcons. 9, I think it's a toss-up between Malik Neighbors or Romo Dunes.
I'll take Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, I would probably say Malik Neighbors. And then 10, this might be crazy. I might say Brock Bowers at 10.
Wow. Okay.
So I think it's Brock Bowers, Romo Dunes. I think those are the 2. I think those would probably be the 2 best fits.
Right.
For the Jets. As you look at the Jets wide receivers, I mean, they have Garrett Wilson. They signed Mike Williams, right?
Yep.
But he's going to get hurt, so you need a backup plan.
Right.
And their tight ends aren't. They have CG. Do they still have CJ Uzama?
I think so. And I
believe they still have CJ Uzama, but he's older. and didn't really produce anything at all
Right.
last season. So I think they get the generational talent, Brock Bowers. Um, then I have the Vikings picking J.J. McCarthy at 11. They desperately need quarterback play. Um, he's from close by, from Michigan.
Yep.
So I think he's going to go to the Vikings. Then pick 12 to the Broncos. This is where I think Romo Dunes goes. Since, yeah, I think this is where Romo Dunes goes. Or I could see Michael Penix going here.
Yep.
I don't think that's too crazy.
Yep.
And then at 13, I'd have the Giants picking since they traded with the Raiders.
Okay.
I think they go with Fashanu.
Yep. Yeah, their O-line was terrible.
And then 14, the Saints. I think the Saints go with Jared Verse from Florida State.
That'd be a great pick.
Edge rusher. Cameron Jordan's getting old. So I think they're going to build up their defensive pressure. And then pick 15, the Colts. I think it'll probably be Latu from UCLA. Because their defense wasn't the best last year. Their secondary was solid.
Yep.
But I don't feel like they got as much pressure as they should have last year.
Yeah. I think that's actually a solid top 15. A lot less moves than mine. Mine's kind of insane. Up and down, with the Vikings and the Chargers swapping. But I do see, I like how you did the Raiders going up. I didn't even think about that. They could legitimately trade up to number 5, just like with the Chargers. So, or the Chargers might even stay at 5 and get a wide receiver, like Rome or something like that. Which I could see that too. Which is probably
that would make most sense. Right. I think
if they stay there, I think that's where they pick. That's who they pick. They need linemen, but I think they hold off. All right, going into the NBA. Crazy week in the NBA. Malachi Flynn with a 50-point outburst. What do you think about that?
I think Detroit won that trade. I think Malachi Flynn's always been a solid player.
Right.
I think now Detroit's getting solid guard play. They're a young team. They got a new head coach who's had success. I think. Right. I think that franchise could make a turnaround soon.
Yeah, it's just like it shows that he only averages like 4 points, but he had 50 points. Yeah. It shows that any NBA player can really go off any time if they get hot because they can make any shot. I agree with you. It shows that they're on their come up. I mean, it's going to take a little bit, maybe 2 years or so, but they're getting better. And Malachi Flynn shows that any NBA player can go off at any time. In that same game, they actually lost that. The Pistons actually lost that game, and Jalen Johnson, he's like a 3-year player from Duke, had a triple double, and took the Atlanta Hawks to, carry them to a W. Like it was just a random game in the NBA where a bench player scores 50 points, and he's a starter and he averages like 15, Jalen Johnson, but this random guy has a triple double. I thought that was kind of cool. So also once again shows that any NBA player can go crazy. Best performance. Now going into best random performance by a player. So like any player that is really not expected to go off. Who do you think of all time? Who was that in your eyes?
Oh, that is a great question. I mean, I would probably say rookie Brandon Knight.
Yeah.
When had like 350 bombs back to back to back.
Right.
Um, that's insane. And there's always Linsanity.
Yeah, that is good. That's a good one. That was a crazy one.
What is yours?
I would say mine's kind of weird because it's not really a random player, but it was kind of a player after his prime and after his injuries. Derrick Rose, 50 ball out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I would say that's kind of a random. He's not a random person, but it is kind of random. Also, I think a couple years ago, Terrence Ross dropped 50 or something randomly in a game. Something like that, where I think those players, they're great players, and Derrick Rose is kind of after his prime, but like a 50 ball out of nowhere, is that was probably my pick for me. All right, did you hear about the Gilbert Arenas was on a podcast or a show with what's his name from the talk? I can't remember. But Shannon Sharp. He was on a show with Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
And he said that Nikola Jokic is the worst statistical MVP of all time in both years. Do you agree with this, or do you not agree with it, I guess?
If we're looking at points, rebounds, assists,
right?
I understood his argument.
Yeah.
I think his MVPs, what it came down to was his plus minus.
Right.
Yeah, the effect he had on while he was on and off the court. And he did make great points about Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double. Michael Jordan had 35 and, however many points and assists.
Yep.
I understand. I don't agree with it because Jokic didn't make the Nuggets that much better.
Yeah.
He had such an impact on that team.
I kind of, I see his argument. But, and like you said, I mean, Jokic, if he would have had 24, 8, and 8, he still would have probably been MVP that season. But, I mean, when you watch a Nuggets game, like you watched last postseason, you can see his impact. And it might be statistically, but you watch a game, you're like, okay, he can take over a game just by being present. Like you said, his plus minus. I mean, he is the best player on the floor and can carry his team to a win, even if he's not doing anything. I mean, I understand his argument, but if you're gonna tell me watching that Western Conference Finals last year that guy wasn't the MVP, I mean, step back, jacking threes over his head and from the volleyball line. I mean, that's why I understand he doesn't have a lot of statistical things. Like you said, Michael Jordan had 35, 5, and 6 or something. But Russell Westbrook kind of had a triple double. Had one of the worst teams that year. But when I think of an MVP, I think of someone that can carry their team. Someone that has impact more than just being, just shooting the ball. And just like Russell Westbrook, he had straight impact. Michael Jordan was defense and scoring. And Jokic is just spreading the ball around, being a great teammate. So I kind of would disagree with that. Now, in other news in the NBA, Julius Randle has been changed to out for the rest of the season. What do you think this affects? How do you think this affects the Knicks? And do you think they're less of a contender now?
I'm going to be honest. I don't think they're that much less of a contender.
Oh,
Julius Randle wasn't playing the best when he went out. And the Knicks have been playing good basketball without him.
right.
They've been finding ways to win games. And I don't think it's too much of an impact because they also just got Mitchell Robinson back.
Yep.
So he brings that size with defense and rebounding.
Yep.
That they would otherwise miss out on with Julius Randle. So I don't think it's too much of a blow.
And Julius Randle shoots the ball a lot.
Yeah.
He demands the ball a lot, and he's kind of inconsistent, very inconsistent. He averages like 20 points, but an inconsistent 20 points. I would rather have Jalen Brunson shoot 44 shots than Jalen Randle shoot 20 shots. So, just like Jalen Brunson did and drop 60 or whatever it was, like 2 weeks or last week. But I the way you said it, I do agree with you. They actually are probably more of a contender without him on the court, right? Without him on the court than they were with him. He just shot the ball a lot. He didn't play great defense sometimes. Sometimes he gave up. A lot of the games that I've watched, especially in the playoffs last year, he just gave up.
Yeah.
All right. Now, for the last topic of tonight's podcast, Bronny James has finally declared for the draft after putting his name in the transfer portal to stay eligible. But Bronny James puts his name into the NBA draft pool. Do you actually think that LeBron James will go wherever he is signed to? And do you think Bronny James will get drafted?
I think, I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure the Lakers have a pretty late draft pick in the second round, which is where I think Bronny would land.
Right.
I think there's a possibility that the Lakers are able to pick up Bronny.
I think it's possible.
I think LeBron's just going to leave and go wherever Bronny goes. Honestly, I think he probably could. If you look at his career, he's accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish.
Right.
I feel like, and I think fathers, he's a giant part of LeBron's life.
Yep.
Yeah, the Lakers have the 56th pick.
Okay, so it's possible.
So, yeah, it's definitely possible that they select him, but even if they don't, I mean, and what team is going to refuse LeBron James?
Yeah.
I mean,
they're going to give him a lot of money anyways, so.
Yeah.
Any team, I do think, especially like you said, that 58th pick, the Lakers could take Bronny James. If LeBron James pulls his weight and is like, I'm going to leave, I'm literally going to go wherever my kid goes. Because like you said, he has nothing to give, nothing to play for. He could play for another, championship, but I don't think it's going to happen on the Lakers because they're not willing to give up to sell out. They're willing to get a great team, but I just don't think they beat the Nuggets right now in the Western Conference. So it might be depending on where he goes. If he goes to like the Hornets, if Bronny James goes to the Hornets, I don't think LeBron James follows him there.
Yeah.
But I don't think Bronny James gets drafted, and he can go wherever he wants, and that'll be the Lakers. If he doesn't get drafted, he'll go to the Lakers. Does that mean he plays? No, he'll be in the G League. I don't think I don't think he'll even set the bench. He just needs to be, there's a lot of potential. Obviously, his dad's LeBron James, but I don't even think he gets drafted. And he just signs to the Lakers. No. And LeBron James signs another 2-year contract or a year. And it could be where LeBron James just retires after this year, which is kind of sad, or retires wherever and goes wherever, just to watch his kid play or whatever. So that wraps up this week's podcast. Follow us on X and follow us on Instagram as well at Unscripted Takes. You guys have a good night or day whenever time you're listening to this, and we'll see you in the next one.